Hey friends, welcome to my first YouTube video back. The last video I made on here was 5 years ago and I was 21, and it's really crazy to see how much has changed since then, and it's really sweet to actually look back at those videos because I was so hard on myself then, and I see how truly impressive everything was, and I'm proud of myself then, and I think that she would be proud of me now. I think that the perfect way to start this channel, start like the rebirth of this channel, would be with a little poetry reading. Right off the bat, I want to say that Florence is going to be making noise. There's going to be noise. Lighting's not going to be great. None of this is going to be perfect because I don't want anything to deter me from just sitting here and making sweet videos that we can just hang out and have a nice time. I thought it'd be nice to kind of restart the channel by talking about poetry because I want to go into the new year and the rest of my life with my approach to literature and poetry in a different way, and I thought that sharing that with you would be extremely beneficial. And also, since we're starting here, I think that we could evolve over time in the way that we consume poetry and art together, and we can use this as a platform to discuss that. I've talked to a lot of people in my life who I know enjoy poetry, but have told me I just can never read that, or I feel out of place reading that. And I think that there's always sometimes this like sheer layer of anxiety or self-consciousness when it comes to talking about poetry or literature or art. I feel like there's this overlay sometimes of like such an academic association that sometimes you don't feel qualified to just read and enjoy poetry. I wanted to do these poetry readings so that we could just enjoy poetry with no pressure of understanding, of analyzing, of doing anything greater than just reading a poem and enjoying it for what it is. And then I wanted to use the comments as kind of like this open discussion board in a way that, again, is just non-judgmental, and we could just like pour out our thoughts and ideas on the poem, or maybe it reminded you of another poem that you enjoyed, or a piece of art, or another piece of literature, or a movie, and from there we can all gather ideas, inspire each other into finding different types of art. I have felt that kind of insecurity in terms of literature and poetry, feeling like I'm not qualified enough to talk about it, to understand it. And I really think that this little series would be nice for all of us to start delving into works that maybe have felt intimidating in the past and learning together. But also love the discussion to teach me things. I want to learn from your perspective, but also if maybe you do have an academic background in poetry or literature, whatever it is, that you can kind of give some advice, some feedback, some information that you have, and we could all learn from it, and I think it's gonna be really fun. Today we're going to be reading a poem out of Devotions by Mary Oliver. This is a curation of Mary Oliver's works from different books and different eras of her life, and I think this is a really great place to start if you are just trying to get into poetry. Devotions just has so many places for you to start. Just flip through, you don't have to read it chronologically, and this just allows you for so much freedom. I wanted to pick something wintry to fit the vibe of just a few days before Christmas, and I love winter, so I love poetry about winter, and I just find that it helps romanticize the season. A season that could be so difficult for some people, and is a really special way to ground yourself and to just experience the season in such a deeper capacity. What we'll be enjoying today is Snow Geese by Mary Oliver, and this comes from her 2004 collection called Why I Wake Early. The title alone, Snow Geese, is so stunning to me. And I also want to start, before we do the reading, that when you're delving into poetry and you have a book like this that can maybe be overwhelming from a glance, explore the poetry from a purely aesthetic perspective. It's okay if you're not going to read this chronologically and maybe you feel silly for just looking and identifying a title and thinking, this is gorgeous, I'm going to start here. I think that your journey and experience with poetry, with art, is so valuable in honoring the way that you want to approach it, and that kind of goes back to why we're doing this journey in the first place. Let's get into the reading. This is Snow Geese by Mary Oliver. Oh, to love what is lovely and will not last. What a task to ask of anything or anyone, yet it is ours, and not by the century or the year, but by the hours. One fall day I heard above me, and above the sting of the wind, a sound I did not know, and my look shot upward. It was a flock of snow geese, winging it faster than the ones we usually see, and being the color of snow, catching the sun, so they were, in part at least, golden. I held my breath as we do sometimes, to stop time when something wonderful has touched us, as with a match which is lit and bright, but does not hurt in the common way, but delightfully, as if delight were the most serious thing you ever felt. The geese flew on. I have never seen them again. Maybe I will someday, somewhere. Maybe I won't. It doesn't matter. What matters is that when I saw them as through the veil, secretly, joyfully, clearly. that was stunning. When I read Mary Oliver's work, I feel so grounded in nature, and it's particularly why I feel drawn to reading her work when I'm trying to feel grounded in a certain season. I mentioned this in a previous TikTok of mine where I was talking about why I have such an obsession with candles, with different teas, and things like that for a season that I'm just obsessed with. And particularly that'll be like fall and winter. I feel like these moments, these precious things that I try to hold on to, like the seasons that I love, the holidays that I love, are so fleeting because I love them so much that I try to ground myself in taste, in scent, in words, in sound, and that helps me claim the moment so much more. Mary Oliver's work has always done that for me when I want taste of nature without needing to go outside and actually explore it physically for myself. Mary Oliver's work always wants me to go and enjoy and experience nature for myself, to kind of have an experience like she just read here about seeing the snow geese fly by and kind of just feeling the presence in that. And it makes me want to just go explore and to have a moment like that, to at least try to. And with reading this, and say you were to go outside and be like, I want to identify an animal that maybe makes me feel that way, to kind of just look at them and think, where are they going and will I see them again? I'll probably never see the same one again. And what does that make me feel? What or who does that remind me of in my real life? Something I really notice with myself when I'm reading poetry is that really helps kind of lightly uncover my subconscious. What am I thinking about? What am I feeling? And it helps me identify things within myself that maybe I'm pushing away. Maybe sometimes it's not that serious. Maybe a word triggered a certain memory, but it's not that I was thinking about that all this time, but it'll make you smile at the least. Oftentimes, I like to journal after I read a poem. And again, don't make these poetry readings something stressful, something that becomes like this strict thing. It's something I like to do. Another thing you could do is have a book and annotate it very simply. I think that annotating sometimes can be stressful too because you see all these videos and how people do it correctly, and there's so many approaches to it. Sometimes I literally just like to underline something and put a heart because I simply enjoyed it and nothing more. One of my favorite things to do in the winter is go to forest preserves. I love a winter hike. I love going on a hike when it's snowing, when there's snow on the ground already and it's not actively snowing, when it's freezing cold. I think that there is such a special and weird, delicate and kind of rare stillness that you find in being in nature during the winter, probably because you feel like you should naturally be avoiding it, that you should be at home, not willingly putting yourself in cold and uncomfortable situations. But when you do that, you find these precious and seemingly rare moments of like seeing geese, seeing little footprints of deer or of dogs in the snow. These really precious moments that maybe you can identify and be like, maybe that's something Mary Oliver would write about. Maybe that's something I want to write about. When I say that maybe you want to write about it, doesn't mean that because you're reading and getting into poetry that you need to become a poet now or a writer in any way. But I think that reading something and just scribbling down in your journal what it reminded you of, what it made you feel, is such a way to be present with yourself, present and grounded in a season, in a moment of time, and be able to reflect on that and look back in the future and be like, I remember so vividly why I read that, when I read that. I would love to know what you thought of snow geese. I would love to know what this poem by Mary Oliver made you think of, what it reminded you of. If you do pick up devotions and you maybe want me to do another reading on a different poem from here, or if you have any recommendations on a poem that you would like me to read and talk about on here, I would love that. Please let me know. If this is something you'd like to see weekly, maybe it's something that we could just stick to monthly, whatever it is. I want to know all of your feedback because I want this to be a fun, cozy space for all of us. But thank you so much for being here for the first YouTube video back. And I hope that you're excited for what we have in store in the future. And again, let me know whatever it is that you want to see because I'm open to so much of it. And I'm excited for what we're going to build here together. Okay, goodbye.